Good morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a good long weekend. This is our asynchronous lesson because we don't have a live class this holiday Monday. So you can work through this lesson on your own. There'll probably be 3 short videos. I'm going to break them up into different components. And you just need to go through the lesson sometime before our class next week. This lesson is also going to help you with a number of the customizations that you may want to make in your assignment 1. So I want you to go to Visual Studio and make sure you launch your video game store. So this is where we left it off last week. And we use the scaffolding tools to build tables in our database. And then we use the scaffolded controller and views for categories so that we added new categories to the database, as well as we added new products. This gives us a functioning website, but as you can see, there's things we should do probably to make it work better and to clean it up. So we're going to customize the models, the controllers, and the views to make these things all just look a little better, work a little better, be more user-friendly. So we're going to deal with the categories index and categories create views. So let's actually, you know what? Maybe we'll start with products. Let's go to our products index. So there's a few things here that we may want to change, both some in the models, some in the views, and some in the controllers. First thing I want to look at is the order of the data. You'll notice if I mouse over, if you look down at my status bar, our products are displayed in the order they got entered. So they're basically by ID. So the first edit link says product ID 1. Second one says product ID 2, 3, 4. So if we keep adding products, this list is just going to be sorted basically by the oldest to the newest. So if the list gets long, it's going to be kind of hard to look through. So this is the default order in our index controller. And we want to change this so that it displays the products, first of all, in alphabetical order. That's going to be friendlier. So our scaffolding code, it runs the query for us. It fetches the data, but it's not sorted. So I'm going to open up my products controller that we generated last week in class. And we'll look at what happens in the index method. So the index method uses our database connection, our DB context, and inside it uses our reference to the list of products, which is our DB set that we can also modify. It includes the parent category, and it returns them as a list. So there's no sorting here. So this list just is sorted by the primary key. So 1 is at the top, and the highest product ID will be at the bottom. So this isn't the easiest way to view our list. So what we want to do here is before or when we're returning a list, we want to add some sorting. So we can use in here an order by. So if I add a dot, I get the ability to sort. And we're going to use the syntax called the lambda expression. So this is where you may have seen it in JavaScript. So we're going to define a parameter that references our list of products. And then we want to sort by the product name column. So instead of by ID, our list is going to appear alphabetically by the product name. So in here, I'm going to just declare a parameter. I'll just use basically just a variable. I'll call it P because it matches the first letter of the word product. And then we use this equal sign greater than. It's called the lambda expression or a fat arrow function. So we won't get too much into the mechanics of it. Just know this is how we can provide extra information when we're writing these queries. So then we want to order by our P dot, and now we get a list of the properties of products. We want to order by the P dot name. So I've just added this in to the scaffolded code, and this order by P equals greater than P dot name. This should sort our query, kind of like doing an equivalent of an SQL order by clause. So I'll build that. And then I'm going to go back to the products index and refresh it. And our list should hopefully appear now sorted by product name rather than by the product ID. So I'll just refresh my product list on my localhost /products. It's going to take a second because the DLL has been rebuilt. And you can see what our order by does. It now sorts A to Z. If I add a new game, maybe I'll put it in with G. So it should be showing up in the middle of the list. So I add it, and it gets added here alphabetically. So it would be up to you, for example, in your assignment, how you wanted to present any data, but you have the ability to sort by any column in the data set, or even multiple columns. We have order by, and then we would have .then by. And we use this lambda expression where we declare a local parameter that refers to the data we have. And then we can sort by a particular property on that object. I'm going to delete this. I don't really need this game. So we'll test out our delete function. So there's one thing we want to do. So there's one customization we've made to this page, and we've done that in the controller itself, where we're writing the query that populates the page. There's a couple other things we want to do with this. We're going to make one change in the view, a couple changes in the view to improve the UI. And then we should also deal with the pricing. And we could format that in the view, but the actual best place to do it is in the model, and we'll look at that as well. So a couple issues in the products index view itself. One is the titles and the heading. Up in my browser tab, it says index here, which isn't a very descriptive name. So I want to change index in the title and in this H1 tag to say products. So I'll go to my views, and we'll go to the product subfolder. And in here under index, we'll open this up. We can see the word index. It just automatically takes the name of the file. We see it on line 4 in the page title, and we see it in line 8 in the H1 tag. So I'm going to change each of these from index to a more descriptive title that says products. Change line 4, and I've changed line 8. We'll do a quick refresh. So this is just a static HTML text we're updating. So my title here and here should both say products now. More search engine friendly, more descriptive for our users. The other thing I want to do is add a couple of Bootstrap classes to our table to give it alternating background colors. So the table will be a little easier to view as it gets bigger. So on line 13, in my class definition, I'm going to add table-striped and table-hover, two classes that come with Bootstrap. I'm going to add those into my table tag. So now I get gray background on alternating rows. I get the hover effect when I roll my mouse over the individual rows. So the table's a little easier to view. So we've just changed some HTML here. Again, we've changed the heading, the two headings, and we've added a couple of classes here. We will do some customizing of the CSS a little bit later. But I also want to deal with the price. So we've made a few changes to these page. We've customized the controller method by adding an order by, and we've customized some of the HTML in our index view. So our price, we could format it in our index view in this line where the price is displayed. But we also have the ability, because anywhere we display the price, we want it to be formatted as currency. We could actually do this globally in our product model By doing it in the product model, we don't have to format the price on every page that displays it. So I'm going to open up my product model under models. And under the price column, we're going to add an annotation. We're going to add a note around price. So what we want to set is we're going to set what's called the data format string. We're going to set a format that says whenever you display this property, we want it to be displayed as currency. Whoops, sorry. We're just going to set the display format, pardon me. And we'll set the data format string equal to, and Microsoft has a number of pre-built formats. So, and it uses this syntax. So 0 will represent the value that we want to format, our price. And if we use a :C, that means format this value as currency. So wherever our product price is displayed, it's automatically going to be displayed in currency format. This saves us from having to format it in all the individual views. So I'm going to build this change. We're going to make some other changes in our model in a little bit. But let's just see what this line does. Display format, data format string 0:C. So again, the C stands for currency, and that uses the server's regional settings. So if our web server was set to be in Japan, for example, it would display the currency in yen. Because our server is set in North America, we would get dollars and cents. So I can just go back. I haven't made any changes to the view here. We've simply changed the model by adding the data format string for our price. So now when we refresh, notice our price values are set to currency. If I go and look at the details, you'll see the model, the pricing also, anywhere it's displayed, it's not in an input box where it's just displayed as HTML, this field will automatically use the price format. Now there's one other change I think we should make here. Typically prices, they're left aligned by default, but typically we right align prices so that it's easy for somebody, for example, if they want to add them up visually, that the prices are right aligned. So let's change our price heading and price column in our table to align them to the right edge of this cell now that we formatted them as currency. So we'll go back to our product index view. And on line 19 in my price heading, I'm going to add a class of text-right from Bootstrap. That's going to go on our TH tag for price. And then I'm going to bring it down to line 43 and put it in the individual column. Whoops, put it in the wrong one. So our price value and headings in the table, we're going to try and align them to the right. Now, this isn't really a page a customer is going to see. We're going to use this more as the administrator of the site, and we'll add security around this page a little bit later. We'll build a product page that looks different for our shoppers when we get to building the shopping cart in a few more weeks. Okay, so now our prices are aligned to the right as we want. Okay, so we've made some customizations to this page. We are going to want to display a photo. We'll do that in our next video because we're also going to have to add some code to allow for a file upload. So we'll do that in the next video in today's lesson. So our index view is mostly done. We'll come back to display the photos a bit later. We also want to customize the product create view. So when we click on it, it looks pretty good. We've got some fields here. but there's a number of changes we need to make. First change is that we don't have much validation. So for example, I could put in a price like this. I could also leave out the product name. Our label says category ID because this is automatically tied to our foreign key. That doesn't look great for our end users. This should probably just say category. So we'll want to change that label. And we have this drop-down list, but just like our list of products, our list of categories is sorted by category ID. So our oldest category is at the top and our newest is at the bottom. We'd be better off to modify this query to add an order by clause so that our categories are sorted alphabetically. We will need to add a file upload box, which we'll do in the next video as well. So we're going to open up our product create view, and then we're also going to want to modify the controller create method and our model some more. Because right now I can create a product with no name and with a negative price, neither of which I should be able to do. So we'll start with the UI first. Under products and create, we've got a number of changes we need to make. First of all, our titles, again, just take the name of the view. So on line 4, it says create, and on line 8, it says create. We'll change these to a slightly more descriptive name. We'll say create product. Actually, maybe we'll call it add product. And on line 8, I'll change my heading to add product. I don't really need this H4 on line 10. We'll just combine that text. Add product in the title and add product in the page heading. Now my label here for category that says category ID, the labels automatically take the property names. So if we ever want to change that, it's for the property of category ID. So this is something we can actually change in our model. So I'm just going to save those changes for a minute. Make sure my headings get updated here. This should say add product, and my H1 should say add product. You can see it's quite slow. This is also because I'm connecting from my local server to the Azure database. When I use my local database, it runs much more quickly. So I've got add product at the top and add product here. So now we're going to make a few more changes in our product model. We have a field called category ID. So what we want to do is give this an alias. We want to give it a friendly name on the label. So we'll say display name equals category. But even though our property is actually called category ID, wherever we're getting a label that's tied to it, we want it to just say category without the word ID on the end. This may not work, but this would be the easiest way. We'll give it a try. So I'm going to refresh my page, and hopefully our label is going to drop the words ID on the end. If it doesn't, we may have to hard code this into our view. In older versions, changing these foreign key labels didn't work, but we'll try it. In .NET Core, it does. So you notice now our label just says category. The other neat thing about this is if I go to edit a product, again, you can see the label has automatically been updated on our edit screen as well. Now we need to add some validation because I was able to add a product with both with no name as well as with a price under $0. So inside of our model, we want to add some validation. So we're going to need to make the name field required, And we're also going to need to ensure that our price is at least 1 cent. So above my name property, we'll simply add the required attribute. So now we're no longer going to be able to create a product if the name is blank. For our price, I'm going to add another attribute called range. And range does exactly what you would think it would do. It lets us set out a minimum and a maximum value for a numeric property. So let's set our minimum as 1 cent. And let's set our maximum pretty high in case we sell a really expensive product in the store. So I'll just set it out as 999,999. So we've added required to name, and we've added a range attribute to our price. I'm now going to go back, and if I try to add a new product now that doesn't meet these rules, our model validation should prevent this from being saved, unlike my first attempt to create a new product today. So notice now the validation rules get triggered, and it actually uses jQuery and jQuery validation. So as soon as I fix my validation errors, jQuery will check the values and automatically remove those error messages. Okay. So not only is it being validated in the back end, but it's still using jQuery to also validate on the front end, which is great. The last thing we want to do is we want to reorder our category list. So this is going to be in our products create method in the controller. There's code here that queries the list of categories and populates them into this dropdown. So we want to modify that code like we did on this page, where we modified our query for the products list to make sure we're sorting by category name instead of category ID. So in my products controller, I'm going to click my list of methods up at the top. And there's two versions of the create method. I want this one, the first one that says create with empty. It's appears on line 49 of my controller file. It's probably the same for you. So on line 51, before the view loads, it creates a new list of categories. And it uses the ID as the value for each drop-down option, and it uses the name property for the text. We can see this if we inspect this element. Here's our select list, where our category IDs are the values and our category names display as the text. So what we want to do is modify our list of categories with another order by. So onto here, I'm going to add order by. I'll declare a parameter that references the category object, our list of data. I'll just use C for categories. I can put in my lambda equals greater than, and we want to order by C.name. I'll build the site, and we'll go back, reload our form, and this time the MMORPG category should be first, and our list should be completely sorted from A to Z. So now it reloads, and our category list is alphabetical. Okay. So we've added custom validation. We've added new titles that are more descriptive. We've fixed our category label, and we've sorted our category list in a more meaningful and useful way for our users. We're going to take a quick pause, and when we come back, we're going to deal with our file upload as well as our photo display, our file upload and our photo display. Okay. Didn't expect to get this error, but that's a useful thing. So notice we've changed our model, right? We've made changes to our model, for example, that says our product name can't be null and our price value has to be between 1 cent and $900,999. So what this is telling me is we've changed the model, but we haven't updated the database. So let's fix that quickly before we take a break. Whenever we change our models, we should be using a migration, making a new migration, and then updating our database. So I'm going to connect to my Azure database. And we'll see where we have this discrepancy. So in my database, my name column, because we set it up without the required attribute, my name column allows nulls. Yet our product model doesn't allow nulls anymore. So now we've got this error, and Visual Studio is telling us we need to add a new migration and update the database. So let's try that. So I'm going to go to my Package Manager console. Mine's already open here. You can get it through Tools, NuGet Package Manager, and Package Manager console. And I'm going to add a new migration to make sure my database schema is in sync with the model schema in the project. I'll call this add product validation. I'm going to add a migration called add product validation. And then I'm going to run my update database command. Okay. So what happens here? This fails for a reason. It fails because I've created a product that has an empty name. If we go and look in my database, I'm actually going to need to remove it from my database before I can run my migration. I have a product with a null name. So I can't update the database so that my name field is required because I already have a record that violates that. So what I'm going to do is I'll just update this product. I'll set the name equal to test where name is null. So now I should be able to run my migration. I'll be honest, I didn't mean to generate this error, but it's not so bad that we did because we can see what happens if we put data in the database and then update the structure of the database and create a conflict. We're going to have to resolve that conflict between our data and the rules. Now I can go back to Visual Studio. I'll run update database again. This time my migration succeeded. And if I refresh my list now, my list of columns, now my update is run and name can no longer accept a null value. So if I go and add a new product here, the jQuery validation runs, and I will not be able to add this new product until I follow all the rules. So we'll take a pause here, and when we come back, we're going to deal with our file upload and display. Then we're going to customize a little bit of the CSS. And in our final video, we'll look at deploying this site to Azure via GitHub. So now my new products are created. And I'll delete the 2 products I don't need anymore. We'll be right back.